Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Game night's fun until someone spends 5 minutes lining up one shot. Chalk, breathe, re-chalk, still aiming. While they figure it out, I fire up Chumba Casino. I can spin anywhere, anytime, and there's always a new social casino game every week. Spins happen way faster than that shot. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Some things never cease to amaze me. Sunrises, hitting a golf ball straight, and the overwhelming ignorance of the common person. Here's a thought. Use Form Bs to determine classification. This, in fact, is competitive balance. Season 8 of Sun Coaches Podcast, where not everyone is funny or tells funny stories, but everyone has a story. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 8, and as always on Sunday evenings, I'm joined by the Executive Director of the Georgia Fire Football Coaches Association, Coach Ed Gaffca is with me. And before we get into the latest news and rumors, Coach, I understand that when it comes to the process of selecting a high school head football coach, especially in the peach state of Georgia, which y'all are getting ice and all that kind of good stuff up there, I understand that you have some points that you'd like to make about the broader points about the process and how we go about selecting our coaches.
Yeah, well, I appreciate always getting on with you, even though we're up here in an ice town. But yeah, the biggest kind of thing that's kind of come of this off season and even some of last off season that's kind of reared its ugly head has been, really the fact that we've had bad examples of how people go about selecting jobs and the processes of these committees. And to me, it's just one thing after another where you just have an example of poor leadership, poor follow through, and ultimately passing the buck, right? They're passing the buck of responsibility. And when I look at what I've heard from some of these jobs, there's one down in South Georgia, for instance, that I think a lot of people would consider a pretty good job. They're going to have 8 or 9 people on that committee, though. And of those 8 or 9 people, you're going to have, 2 or 3 APs that have no clue about football. You're going to have a different sport head coach. That's fine. You're going to have the superintendent, the principal, the AD, and you're going to have, a transportation director or the health and services director. What do they know about how to hire a head football coach for their community? What do they know that they need to be able to do? And, so from my standpoint, we've got a situation with that place especially that they go through this process. It's a song and dance. They're only going to do one round of interviews, then they're going to pass along a recommendation to the board. Well, we said it last week. They sent it to a board of education that is represented by, Bubba, who owns the tire shop, and all these other community members that, again, what do they know about what it takes to run a football program? What do they know about what it takes to run a classroom, for that matter? It's the only professional, organization that's not represented by other teachers. It's represented, doctors are represented by doctors and judged by doctors because they're the only ones who have been in those shoes. From my standpoint, it's becoming more and more of a why are we doing it this way? kind of thing. Every other industry adapts. Every other industry doesn't do the same things that they've done for 100 years. Quite like education, we're still gonna show up to school. We're still gonna have our block schedule, our period schedule, and we're still gonna go through the standards and take standardized tests, and nobody has an inkling or a gut to say, hey, you know what if we did something different? Maybe kids today are different. Maybe we should look at this a little different. That's but again, that's small thinking, and it's people who are career educators. God love them, but they've never spent a day in the real world. And that's bleeding over into the hiring processes. That's bleeding over, showing just how poor this entire process has been for a lot of people. I feel bad for some of these coaches that are going through it right now, because when you look at a place, and I wrote about Alatoona, you're going through a place where, again, everything might look okay on the outside, but then you pop the hood and you realize that there's not a lot of nice things being said about some leadership there. And, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, if you hear it from one person, that's one thing. You hear it from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, that's something completely, different. And, I think that's where, the kind of questions you ask some of these people, you've got to make sure you end up not being afraid to ask some questions, even if it doesn't get you the job. You got to be able to do it, because it's just that important. You got to ask exactly what they felt like could be better, from the last regime to this one. What would you like to carry over? We've got obviously the Greene County video, and now we've got, up here in Metro, you've got a job that is now confirmed that, you had to send a dang video, acting as if show us a video of you, hearing it, that you're announced as the head coach of this place, and we're going to watch it with you with the hiring committee. I cannot tell you how asinine that is, how tone deaf that is, and how little that has to do with somebody's ability to be successful at a job. And I hope somebody said, yeah, no, I mean, that's cute. I'm just not going to do it because I'm not a 12-year-old girl filming a TikTok. So, to me, what are we doing here? If we don't sit here and actually think, all right, I need to get the stakeholders. Well, who are the stakeholders? Well, I think that if you really want to do it, a committee style, which is fine, I think you have to get somebody like the park and rec director who, can ask questions and hear, his point of view on each candidate based on, the value that they think he's going to add to the feeder programs and that plan and his connection with them. I think you have to have somebody, whether that's another, community person, that's fine. I've got nothing against you having somebody from the community on it, because I think that matters. But you don't take their opinion on anything that has to do with managing a football team. You take it based on his perception or her perception of, how well is that person going to be received, in town? How, does this person feel as if, this person can kind of go out there and do what the people, in the city are going to be okay with and, be able to get behind. I think you need to have other head coaches, right? But those other head coaches have never, been a part of a football program, and that's the biggest difference. The softball coach has to deal with different things. I think that they need to kind of see exactly, you get their opinion on maybe what they think of the approach, knowing the kids in the school. And I think you need to have the athletic director and, principal, and basically you take all of their opinions in their specific area and take that into account and make your decision. Narrow it down. Have them come back. If somebody scored low in the Parks and Rec, shoot, go in there and, bring that up. Say, listen, you scored lows here, but you were elite in these other ones. So, what's your message to them? How do we curb that? How do we make sure that, that, because that piece matters. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but it's about as clean cut as you can do it. And getting a video from somebody, getting any of that, I know that the Walker School is They did Zoom interviews, recorded interviews that they are showing to the hiring committee now to determine who to bring in for a second interview. That's an interesting approach, to say the least, but, I'm not against it. I think that's one way to do it, but, I think that when you look at the grand scheme of things here, if that's not if they're just asking, answering questions and it's just a recording, that's different. But if it's a true blue interview over Zoom, that's fine. I'm disappointed in a lot of ways that these people have gone about it, and I wish I could say I'm surprised, but the more this has worked and gone around, I find it absurd. Honestly, I'm more than happy if any of these ADs and principals and supers want to give me a call, shoot me a email, and say, hey, we might have this job coming up, and anybody that would check our boxes for us. Oh yeah, I'll give you my opinion, and you can take it for whatever you deem that to be worth. But ultimately, what you can guarantee is, hell, I have no affiliation with your program. I've got none. But I can tell you who's a good football coach, who's a good teacher, who's going to do the things that you tell me are the priorities. And ultimately, does that matter to you, or do you need to go through the song and dance and end up hiring the superintendent's, buddy who he said, hey, if I ever get this job, man, you're my guy. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But let's stop wasting people's time. Let's stop just making dumbass decisions based on the opinion of a board member whose daughter is a softball player or her son's a basketball player. Who gives a shit? Make the best decision, and stop wasting time with perceived power. In what we're doing, because the example at Rome, I've never been more disappointed in a quote unquote good job in my life, and. I'm glad to see it's coming to an end, maybe. But if that ain't a 7-0 vote, it's an even bigger problem. So, that's kind of my rant and rave on kind of the process. But, I do think that there should be some serious conversations. And who's the ones that are judging these people? Do they go back and think, hey, how did we handle that hire? How did we handle that process? Because, if this were us teaching, boy, they'd be coming with us with a dang laundry list of rubrics of where we went wrong. I'd like to be able to provide them a rubric of where they went wrong, and they're definitely not going to like the fact on that TEAC score. They're going to get a lot of ones. So a lot of room for improvement.
A lot of room for improvement. Before we get into the actual jobs and where they're at in the process, I'm going to comment on all of this. And they wouldn't get ones. Some of these places would get zeros. A reaction video, I wish somebody would send the meme of Signetti's face, the look on his face when he looks at him, or just sit there and be like, all right, when do we start, or whatever. That is so, I'm not surprised, but that is ridiculous. The whole, what you said is exactly right. We're the only professional profession that is governed by non-professionals. Lawyers govern lawyers, doctors govern doctors, and we might answer to, Skeeter, who's cooking meth in a bathtub in a 12x60 somewhere in the woods and who hated school. He just happens to be the guy they voted for in his district. And it's the Enron scandal all over again. There's a reason that happened, and it's because you don't let your board appoint your CEO. Of course he's going to do what you tell him to do. He's not going to do anything else. And if your board's corrupt, then you're banged, but they have a scapegoat. Back in the old days, we elected superintendents, and everybody and their brother that grew up in that system has pointed to the fact that you can probably draw a graph with an X and Y axis and show directly when school systems in the state of Georgia went to crap. And it was when we quit electing superintendents, because they answered to the public. Now, if your community is dumb and they do dumb things, fine. They elected somebody to represent them. And if they do dumb things, then they do dumb things. But now that we do the same thing in all the hiring processes, and it is an absolute joke to me. And I can go ahead and tell you, Coach Ed, they're not going to reach out to you, because that's one of the services some coaches provide, is a vetting service. I can put 5 people in front of every one of these committees, principals, AD. They tell me what they want. I can put 5 in front of them that they're not going to be disappointed. They're not. But they're not going to do it. Number one, they're not going to pay for the service. Number two, they're just not going to do it, because they would have to admit that they don't know what the hell they're doing. And that's not going to happen. There's too much pride, too much ego, too much of that. Now, a response I have to a tweet you put out, or a response to one of your tweets the other day, is somebody.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Saying that the teachers need to be, and you made a good point off air, and you made a good point online. If you're a good football coach, a good baseball coach, if you're a good coach, you're a good teacher. You're just talking about a different subject matter. And if you take a football coach and have him cover the biology class, as you said, then he's going to be fine. But if you take that biology teacher and you throw them out there at football practice and go, well, the head coach is not here today. His mother passed away. He can't be here. And the offensive coordinator has the doo-doo virus. And so you're 3 coaches down. You got 80 kids out here. Make practice happen. Not going to happen. Can't happen. Don't know how to do it. You know, there's multiple examples of coaches being teacher of the year and all this other stuff. You know, and the old saying is when they get 10,000 people to show up and watch us give a math exam, I'll really worry about that, because I've been too many times in my career. Everybody laughs and jokes about, oh, Lamb's got all the T-shirts. Lamb's been everywhere. The average everyday person, and probably some of the coaches out there, don't understand how many times in my career I was threatened with non-renewal because they needed my teaching slot for the new coaching staff that was coming in. And the caveat that was given to me by each of those administrators was, well, you do an excellent job in the classroom. We love seeing you around the community and at church. You do a lot for these kids, but he needs that teaching slot. So you can either get us a letter of resignation or we will non-renew you. And that's a fact. That is Middle and South Georgia. That's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. I ain't mad about it, because that's the way it works. But for the average everyday person to think that our existence and our livelihood as coaches is based on which, don't get me wrong, 90% of our teaching, of our salary is based on teaching. But for them to think that we don't teach, I mean, you can't just roll the ball out. You can't just be boo-boo LaFoo in the classroom. You have to do your job. You've got to do your duties. You've got to do your lesson plans. You've got to control the classroom. You have to be a good teacher. But for them to think that I need the English teacher sitting on an interview committee, they're fooling themselves. They're not gonna let the football coaches come in there and interview an English teacher. It's just not going to happen. So there's my rant. And with that being said, we'll go through some of these jobs that you had in your article, things that are coming to a close. So if you'd like to go over the ones you have and where we are in the process, and I'll kind of cap it off this segment. I'll cap off all of the jobs that remain open in the state.
Yeah, and it's winding down to a certain degree. I still expect there to be a few more openings, just because that's just the nature of it. But Alpharetta is going to be closing this week. That'll open up a job in North Georgia. Appleton County is also going to be closing. That's not going to open up a job. That's going to be interesting to kind of follow that. Allatoona, if you read the article yesterday, being Saturday on that, or maybe I put that out Friday, but Allatoona, again, if you want to put a microscope over what I would deem a complete shit show, just go ahead. Altitude is that place, baby. That is a tough look for them. At some point, somebody's got to take the job, because I think that they are at this point regretting, firing or moving on from, Coach Smith. Because to be honest with you, when you have guys on staff coming and talking to, admin and having those conversations that are in those, behind closed doors in the coaching office, and you got somebody with an ulterior motive trying to better themselves. And now, guess what? That joker he ain't getting a job. But, now he's all pissy, and now he's all, on, just walking around thinking the world's against him. Well, dude, honestly, it's karma. You kind of deserve it, and I don't feel bad for you. But, now you've got people that have gone through the process. They've made it to the end. They've been offered the job, and then they back out. You also have, some people who have thought that they were getting the job, and then they come back and say, hey, board gets cold feet, or the hiring committee gets cold feet. At some point, guys, like, you're about to be into February. You need to you need to figure this thing out for the kids' sake, because it's embarrassing. You're in Cartersville region. You're playing for second anyway, so who gives a shit? Just make a dang hire and have that guy be as dedicated to bettering those kids and treating them right and doing what's necessary. Because right now, anybody that's thinking about leaving or whatever, heck, would you blame a kid for leaving? I mean, that's my take. But, and then Cook County, they should be, they're trying to finish this thing by that February 9th board meeting. I think that, they've interviewed a lot of decent coaches. I've talked to a few of them that I think are, they'd all be good hires. It just kind of depends on the way they want to go about it. Because they're all kind of different in their approach. East Jackson's got again, there's certain resumes that you got to give a call to prior to anybody else getting a resume or anybody else getting a call. And you got to see if there's actual interest there, just because if you don't, you're not doing your kids the benefit of the doubt there. If a big dog wants that job, shoot, hear them out. I mean, you gotta hear them out. And, so we'll see how that process unfolds. Montgomery County just came up, and Coach S goes down to what I consider to be the armpit of Georgia in Mitchell County. But, hey, he chose to go there. Good for him. I hope he's happy, and he's got some gnat spray and all that good stuff. So good on him. But Montgomery County has somebody that I think they like. I don't know if he's interested, but, that'll come to fruition really quick. Rockmart on Friday had a couple people internally interview, and a big dog that was on campus as well. It's a really good job, really good job. So I don't know if there's a wrong way they can go with that. I'm trusting them to do this thing the right way. So we'll see if they break my heart or not. Rome is actively calling around to basically prepare people like, hey, we're excited about Coach Stewart. And shit, you should be. He's a hell of a football coach, hell of a person, good person to be in around those kids. The fact that you put them through this is y'all better throw an extra $20,000 on that thing, and maybe a king ranch, because this is absurd. And to be honest with you, the fact that if that thing is not a 7-0 vote, you all should be ashamed of yourself. And, I'm hopeful that everything's going to just water under the bridge. If that's where he wants to be and Lord takes him there, then I wish Coach Stewart the best of luck, and I hope he makes anybody who doubted him eat crow. Now, Wheeler, that one closed. That should be announced this week as well. Again, some of this will depend on how much ice people got and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's one of those where I think I think you've got a pretty solid list there. Greene County still reviewing the tape, I guess, and Walker. is in their process, which I got to be honest with you, everybody keeps asking about the Walker School. Guys, I can't point that school out on a damn map. This is the first year I've heard of it. And I feel like I have a pretty good idea of where these schools are. I'm just going to assume it's like Fulton, Fulton or Cobb or, somewhere around there. But really and truly, I have no idea where the Walker School is. I know they're a very high level academic organization, so best of luck trying to lower that standard to get some athletes in there. But ultimately, from that standpoint, and then I do want to touch on this, and it's actually, Coach, I think we were gonna do this separately, so I'll let you give your job feedback, and we'll hit up that Bainbridge TCC thing after this.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get on the Bainbridge TCC thing, but as far as all the other jobs go, Northgate's close to being done, and 7A and 6A, South Paulding appears to be close to being done. Bradwell had their guy, job where he was at came open. He has interest in that. Chapel Hill may have their guy. Northside Columbus is actually filled. They promoted from within. As you touched on Alpharetta, Morrow, God help you, Lovejoy. No idea. Rome is what it is. Union Grove has been open for quite some time. Allatoona, that's the kick the tires situation. Druid Hills, no thanks. Windsor Forest, been open a long time. Hadn't heard a peep out of that. You hit on East Jackson, Monroe out of Albany, they'll have some of the local coaches, I'm sure, in the area will be interested in that. Dougherty County has a very good pay scale. Washington County, go back to our previous rants about letting board members openly slander people, and that's actually what it's called when you say it out loud in a recorded on record. That's actually slander. When you write stuff on the internet that isn't true about people, that's libel.
It's not executive session like Rome went into, so they should have gone in executive session like Rome if they wanted to be off the record, just to clear that point up.
Yes, that's actually slander, and they'd be getting a call from my lawyer. Appleton County, we know who that's going to be. Southwest Macon, Rockmart's going to Rockmart. Redan, no thanks. Booker T. Washington came open last week. Swainsboro, no idea what they got going on over there. Cook County, I'm pretty sure I know who they're going to hire there. Greene County, there's 4 sets of initials, so that's at least 4 people that did the interview, that did the video. Wilkinson County, no idea. Warren County, Charlton's going to get their superintendent in place before they hire a head football coach, which is actually probably intelligent. Macon County, I'll come back to that one in a second, and Montgomery County are all the jobs that are currently open. Fannin County did fill with a DC from Lumpkin County. That was the first job to come open. It took them an awfully long time to get that one worked out, but I imagine they did their due diligence, and I have no problem with that. Now back to the Macon County thing. I got blowtorched by somebody that just by the misspelling words and things like that is obviously functionally illiterate. This will be the 4th head football coach under this current administration. That doesn't mean that the guy that left first hadn't been there for 13 years. That wasn't what I said. This will be the 4th head football coach under the current principal. There's a common denominator. And as I pointed out to the gentleman, unfortunately in our business, perception is reality. And the perception in the coaching business is you let go of a really good person. And so all the coaches are going to know a good coach. I mean, he was region coach of the year before he came there. So all of a sudden, I guess he became incompetent. No, that's not the problem. And then it gets pointed out to me that, the kids are going to be held to a higher academic standard, plain and simple, behaving and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. So what you're telling me is the sole human being in that building for those 50, 60 kids on the football team that's responsible for all of their academics and all of their behavior is the football coach. It's not the rest of the faculty. It's not the rest of the staff. So that goes back to what we said earlier about you have these committees and these people. Well, I want to know what kind of teacher he is. Well, let's look at your classroom management. How many kids did you write up last week? How many times do we have to come down there and deal with a situation in your class because you can't keep them under control? But none of that's going to come out. That's not going to be a thing. No.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
We're going to get the football coach. We're going to get him out of here. We're going to be on our fourth one since I've been the principal here. Maybe it's you. It's kind of like you've been married 4 times. It's probably you. I mean, I'm just saying. You're either a really bad picker or it's you. It's one or the other. It can't be both. Well, I guess it could be both. You could be a bad picker and it could be you. But it's definitely not the other person. But those are the jobs that are open. We'll get out of that segment. Before we go into the next segment in the process, I want to talk about Matchup USA. Matchup USA is an app made by coaches for coaches, and it's not just football coaches. It's any coach, any sport that you're doing, and right now, they're available across the country. But they're trying to get a foothold in the state of Georgia, and how it works is you create your team, you post your open dates, and you find your opponents, whether it's an OTA, whether it's throwing 7-on-7, whether it's a scrimmage game, whether it's a preseason tournament, whether it's summer basketball, whether it's summer baseball or softball matches, anything, any sport in the state of Georgia, you need to get down with this, and it's free. It's free to us. It doesn't cost you anything, and it allows you to get with who you need to get with. You're going to connect with coaches. You're going to be able to post open dates, and you're going to be able to create competitive matchups. And this isn't an ad read. I'm just looking at their website, and I know the coaches that came up with it, and it's great. If you're in the state of Georgia, they will go ahead, the app will go ahead and calculate your PSR for you. I don't know why this isn't going to be bought by GACA or the GHSA and sanctioned and sponsored by the GACA and take off across the country, because God knows Alabama just had a reclass, and I imagined after, as is with all of us, when you have a reclass, scheduling is a freaking problem. It is not fun whatsoever. But
and Coach, you also got to think there's the old way that we've been doing it since X has been around, or Twitter. Is you send Coach Georgia, you send it to Football Scoop, or you tag me or you in it, and we just retweet it and let people know who's looking for games. That eliminates it. You just go on there, everything you want, post your job, or post your the game you need, the sessions you need, whatever it is, and it takes that part of it out, and I can't think of a better way to fill my schedule than go on there and put exactly what we're looking for and see if we got a match somewhere, and hey, it's done. So I think it's brilliant. I think, like you said, GHSA or GACA should buy it, partner it, endorse it, because I imagine it's gonna it takes a lot of stuff off of a coach's plate that creates a lot of headache.
absolutely. I mean, I just believe in them. I know who's doing it. I believe in the product, and if I were a head coach of any sport, I would be getting the app. I would use that to its full advantage. So we move on to the next section, which is kind of connected to process and things like that, and that would be the Thomas County Central Bainbridge situation. I'm going to let you speak on that at length, but I'm going to go first and say, to me, this is all related. It all connects. Like Dabo going off on tampering. all he's doing is calling for your governing body to stand up and do what you're supposed to be doing. We have rules, enforce the rules that we can enforce. Tampering is a thing. We can prove that there was tampering. How about let's enforce the rule? This situation that we're about to discuss has nothing to do with that. None at all. This situation has to do with why would you not want that? Why would you not do that? And if you'll do what everybody around you is doing, and that's make a bigger commitment to your facilities, your pay for your coaches, the premium that you place on the student athlete, and they're athletes too. A lot of these kids, that's the reason they come to school. And I'm not saying that, it's what keeps them off the street. It what builds character, develops discipline, builds lifelong friendships. And for some, it's going to change their entire whole life going forward, their trajectory of what they could be as young people. So we should pour just as much into athletics as we do the academics, and vice versa. If you're a place that pours an inordinate amount of money into athletics, I dare to say that you probably also have very high-performing academic students as well. You can have both. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Our job is to provide the best opportunities we can for our young people and to act like parents when they don't have them, to give them everything that we never had. That's what you should want. And it shouldn't just be in the classroom. It should also be on the athletic field. But I'll let you get into this situation that I'm whatever you're going to say, I'm 100% on your side on this one.
Yeah, well, I got reached out to by about 3 different people in and around Bainbridge, and then I got reached out to by a couple people that weren't around Bainbridge, but I have an issue with Thomas County Central, and making claims that they are actively recruiting, their kids and basically, coaching them and bringing them over. And with each one of them, I said, okay, well, what's your proof? They said, there's screenshots and there's all this evidence, proof out there. Okay, send it to me. Didn't have anybody send it to me. Didn't have anybody willing to get on the phone and explain it to me. So I ended up, calling some folks at Thomas County Central. And I said, hey, this is what I'm hearing. And I've got one somewhat side of it. What's your side of it? And in all honesty, I believe every word of what they said. I think that when it comes down to it, and this doesn't just count for Thomas County Centrals and that it's any program that's experiencing success or consistently winning or building and having great new facilities and such. When that is happening, it makes it attractive for people to go there. Makes kids want to go there and be a part of it. Makes families want to go there and be a part of it. Your community at that school that's being successful is talking about it to other people in other communities, bragging about it. It's making it a place that's, desirable. And, it's actually a lot easier for those teams to have kids legitimately find ways to move in and do stuff on paper the right way. And I say do stuff on paper because I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's still kids that don't make bona fide moves, but on paper they do. And that's all that matters because there ain't nobody from GHSA going door knocking. So what does it matter? And, so when you have all of these things, I think that it only makes you justify your own inadequacies or your own failures at that time. Well, we'd be better if we didn't have little Johnny go over there to the other team. Well, little Johnny was a damn freshman when he did it. Or in 8th grade, whatever. Listen, the cardinal rule was always, if you're going to get kids in, get them in before 9th grade. Have them register. It's the easiest way around all those rules. Anybody with a pulse and can fog up a glass knows that. Ask Buford how they've done it. I mean, it's like they invented recruiting. Okay, so the reality is, get really good at those feeder programs. Get those kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and you ain't got anything to worry about. Now you got a kid that's coming over as a freshman. I got to tell you, unless that kid is one special football player, he ain't having. They haven't even seen him play. I doubt he suits up for them on Fridays. Are there kids that should be at Thomasville that go to Thomas County Central? You're damn right there are. But, at the end of the day, what's stopping them? What's the reason for them to go to Thomasville? I think Thomasville's got a great, program, great history, great tradition. But the shiny new thing that's winning a state title, that matters. It matters. And, I think that we sometimes try to make something a big deal when it's not. When you have community members post on Facebook like, hey, come, you got a coaching change, like the one I posted this week with Cedartown with, Rockmart going through their thing. Here's the reality. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you're a community member, go ahead. Again, it's people wanting people to see how good of a place it is. I'm all for it because you know what it does for coaches? It reinforces, hey, we got our public on our side. They think we're doing a good job, and other people should bring their kids here. They might not be endorsing the way that you're going about it, but hell, they ain't telling you to stop either. So I think the small-minded approach is always, well, there must be something nefarious going on. They hired one of the assistant coaches at this, place that just went through a coaching change. Well, maybe that coach wasn't retained. Maybe that coach was looking for a job to support his family, and he comes there, and he's like, "Oh, damn, this is a lot better." Again, I just think that if you have receipts, it matters. But if you don't have the receipts and you don't share them, why would I go to bat for you? I can't go to bat for you because ultimately, if I'm a kid down there in South Georgia right now, guess what school I'm probably going to or want to try to go to? It's going to be Thomas County Central. It's not Valdosta. It's not Lowndes. It's not, it's never Bainbridge. I don't know when it ever would have been Bainbridge. It's not any of those places down there. It's Thomas County Central. And there's a reason for that. Go look at the facility they're building. Go look at everything that they're doing and winning, because that's what matters. You want to be a part of winners. That's what happens. And winners have targets on their back, and people come after them. I'm not saying that they don't get kids in. Obviously, any coach down there would say, yeah, kids move in all the time. But to say that they are going and looking at the Bainbridge roster for kids, I don't know if that's going to move the needle, right? I'm sure Bainbridge has some good football players down there, but, to sit there and assume that that's not the case, or that TCC is reaching out and saying, hey, I saw you play, da-da-da-da-da. It's one thing when it's Gainesville and you got a lot of Twitter DMs from some people when Niblett first got there after games. There was a lot of people. Listen, I had players on my team that had them. So there was proof. Not shit happened with it, but, there's proof. But nobody's provided any proof. So, again, worry about making the kids at Bainbridge and whatever school you're at, give them a reason to stay at your place. Give them a reason to be there. Give them a reason to continue to want to be proud of playing for your school. Don't give them a reason to look elsewhere and try to think, man, I want to go and be a part of that program. Now, make them proud to be a part of your program, because, again, if you're not selling your kids on the message and the goals and the dream of what y'all are working towards, I question the coaching. I do. I question the people in that building affecting, happy kids and kids that are content where they're at and believe in those coaches don't leave. They just don't. Now, some people have piece of shit parents and they try to sell their kid everywhere, but we all know those people because they sold them to you. So those are outliers. But kids that have been in that program for years, they don't leave because they're unhappy. Or they don't leave because they're happy. They leave because they're unhappy. They don't believe in what you're doing. And they see other people that they've grown up with.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it. But Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Played against, having tremendous amount of success and notoriety. So go be successful. Build into kids. Put up a wall around your city and say, guys, if you're not with us, get out. If you want to go and play at Thomas K. Central, now's your time. We ain't going to say anything about it, but go. That's what I would do. We might, listen, it'll be addition by subtraction, but the kids that are left are going to be kids that are proud to be a part of that program, and they're going to fight their ass off for you. So, it's just a difference of opinion, difference of, how things go. But, if my hope is that the folks at Bainbridge listen to this, and if they have proof, they'll send it to me, and heck, we'll go balls to the wall, baby. But I can't go off of just whispers and rumors because how I see it, y'all not wanting to play TCC or whatever, however that's, going down. Again, you only hurt the kids and you only hurt your gate. Thomasville should be playing TCC because they're going to miss out on about $60,000, weekend on that one. So God bless them. But, I think it'll be interesting. I really do. But yeah, that's that shit show, Coach.
Well, that kind of piggybacks onto my next topic that I'd like to discuss, and that is college recruiting. Last week we saw a lot of kids across the state get offers, whether they're committable offers or not, who knows. But here's what, and I've said this, for years, I'll say it again. I know there's a few college coaches that listen to this. I'm going to say it real, just the way I say things. There are more kids that can play college football and qualify to go to your school than Metro Atlanta and the schools that are right off the exits of I-16, I-75, I-85, and I-95. So I saw people getting offers, these kids getting offers. I've seen these kids play. And just for example, we have a kid that's going to be a junior next year, and he's 6'3", 330, little ankles, can run, and he's got near 4.0 GPA. And that sounds great. Yeah, that's good. Well, he's going to play somewhere, I'm sure of it. Well, here's the crazy thing. His younger brother, his little brother, is a freshman. He's 14 years old. He's 6'5", 250. You think he would get an offer as soon as they walked in the door? For a class of 28, 29, and he's going to be a 4.0 or near a 4.0. But have we seen those people? No, because we're not next to the interstate. So you're telling me there weren't any football players in Fitzgerald? I didn't see any of that blasted out on Twitter. I know they got football players. Worth County, for God's sake, just won a state championship, and Lee County's right next door. I mean, I get it. Your traditional powerhouses and all that, but that's why I could see where some people move their kids to other places. Because the way that it's turned into now with college recruiting, you got to do what's best for your child or what you think's best for your child and their career going forward, because the way the recruiting process has changed so much that, Coach Tinker says it the best, do not turn anybody down or turn your nose up at anything, because the game has changed. You can't be D1 or bust. You can't be P4 or bust. You can't be, you better have an open mind and understand the game. You better understand that regardless of NIL and all this other stuff, you're not gonna have life-changing money. You might have year-changing money, like Fran Brown said the other day, and that's just fact of the matter. You might not get any money, but what you will get is a network. You will get connections. You will have lifelong relationships that you build with people, and you also get an education, and that's important. You'll be trainable. You'll be able to get a better job, start off better in life, regardless of NIL or anything else. So I just wanted to hit on that a little bit, because that's something that's bothered me, that, you know, these college coaches, you know, they like to have they don't mind getting their picture taken with this guy and that guy and this, you know, whatever, and doing all this other stuff. But when you have colleges local to you and their head coach says, hey, number one, I'm not worried about the people around us. We can get them in the spring. B, get up to Metro Atlanta. C, if they can't commit mid-year, we don't want them anyway. That's how the game's changed. And that's fine. I get it. That is what they do. That's what they do for a living. It's just frustrating that they don't have sense enough to get together and say, you know, we can drive all this down. It's supply and demand. If we don't like the NIL and we don't like this, just don't pay them that money. But somebody's going to do it, and they're going to win a national championship, and nobody else wants to, you know, be the ones that didn't get in on the mix with that. But I'm on side with Dabo on this. Just because everybody's doing it, don't make it right. Right is right, wrong is wrong. There is no in between. You know, if you believe in such things at the end, when you stand up there, you're not going to say, well, what did you do in this situation? Well, I kind of, you know, no. You either did right or you didn't. And if everybody did right, there wouldn't have to be rules. There wouldn't be. But with that being said, when we have governing bodies that are in charge of enforcing said rules, they need to enforce them. They need to enforce them equally, and they need to enforce them without prejudice, without any kind of, that's my boy, any favoritism, nothing like that. Enforce the rules. You know what the rules are. Do what you're supposed to do. I can only imagine what these households look like. I know what they look like because I see them in class every day. It's kids that don't think the rules apply to them. They apply to everybody else. Rules for thee, not for me. But all they're doing is modeling behavior that they're learning from the adults around them. And that I have a problem with.
Oh, you're 100% right. I got no notes on that one. I 100% agree. And, you know, I think my biggest question is, you got any room at the Sun Coaches retreat for the fired coaches to present, somehow inconspicuously, keep the mystery the mystery. But maybe we just pop over, have a little fun, and see if we can't present. I don't know if you got it all stocked up and booked yet, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
Well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you bringing that up, because that brings up the last thing of the evening, and that is the Sun Coaches Retreat. It's going to be on March the 14th. It's going to be at South Forsyth High School. There'll be a social to follow. Leading the fellowship, we've got McEachern High School staff, Creekview staff, Pike County staff, Appalachia staff, Long County Power T staff, Taylor County staff, Kings Ridge staff, and Central Carrollton staff leading us in fellowship. It's going to be a totally different situation. There's not going to be any exhibits. There's not going to be any, and if I was having it at a hotel, which we would like to be able to do next year, it just depends on, what kind of feedback we get from this year. We'll move it to, the courtyard or the Marriott or whatever with the bubble and all that other stuff. But until we get this retreat going, it's just going to have to be what it is right now. But we got people leading fellowships. They're going to stand and discuss things, but there's not going to be an exhibit hall. You're not going to get hammered about coming to buy this or try this new toy or whatever. We got none of that. There's not going to be any college coaches there telling you how to run drills for 6'5", 350-pound linemen, or 6'6", 240-pound freak edges And that's how they do it, and you know, they just go get one. If he can't do it, how do you teach it? Well, we just go get one that can. There's going to be none of that. It's going to be high school coaches talking ball. It's $50 for a staff, the whole staff. If you've got 12 on your staff, $50 gets the whole staff in. If you've got one, well, it's going to cost you $50. But that money is going back to the coaches with food and the social afterwards. So it's a one-day deal at South Forsyth High School. I am sure that we'll be more than happy, Coach, to pass out stickers or anything else you could have. We've got all the fellowship times are accounted for, starting at 9 o'clock. Registration starts at 8 at the door. You can pay at the door, or you can hit me up on Venmo. But I need you, if you're going to come, go ahead and register. There's a Google form. Go ahead and fill that out so that we get an idea of the food. There'll be food available during the day. And then we'll also be using this is not for profit, that they'll be using for the social afterwards. And all of that's going back to the coaches. Now, if you need a hotel room up there by South Forsyth High School, you're going to have to figure that out. I put it on there. It's either going to be bougie or bootleg. It's probably going to be more bootleg than bougie. But we're real excited about it, and a different take on, you know, during clinic season, there's all these clinics and things like that. This isn't necessarily going to be anything like that. You know, we're having pick schools from each classification, and they're going to lead fellowships, and as they lead fellowships, they'll talk about whatever. So, you know, and if it's just everybody hanging out and networking like the good old days, that's exactly what we're kind of shooting for. So that's March 14th. Registration starts at 8 o'clock at South Forsyth High School. Sun Coaches 2026 retreat. And hopefully we can't fill it up. I mean, it's statistically improbable that we don't have enough room for everybody. So there's no excuse unless you're coaching a spring sport for you not to be there, especially you North Georgia guys. But that's all I got, Coach. You got anything else?
Nope. I'm thrilled that we were able to get this in, and honestly, I'm excited for the retreat, and you know, I will be there, you know, in one shape or another. People might not know it's me, but I'll definitely be around. If not, you'll definitely see me at the social. I can tell you that much. And shoot, we might just blow that thing up. So it should be a great time. It's, you know, people ask what you can do to, you know, extend your network and, you know, get your name into certain circles. This is one of those opportunities. Coaches helping coaches and learning from them. You know, because again, there's so many coaches that are incredibly smart and incredibly gifted at what they do and how they do, you know, go about their days. So being able to learn from people, be a sponge, and honestly just, you know, bounce ideas off people and, you know, break off with a little pocket of folks. So listen, I'm sure those wing T guys are just going to be over there drawing buck sweep up, you know, to every front imaginable. So if that's your thing, get after it, man. Get after it. You know, I know that there's a certain part of every coach that enjoys just sitting back, talking ball and talking about random situations, right? And I think that's what makes it you know, I always refer to it somewhat as a fraternity of coaches that, you know, they all know, you know, we all kind of go through a rush of pledgeship and cutting our teeth and all that stuff. And this is kind of the part that you get to enjoy, which is getting together with the other people in this organization that is coaching. And it's unlike anything else. And, you know, coaches helping coaches and promoting coaches. So, you know, my hope is that whether it's through, you know, this or, you know, through the Fired Coaches account, we're able to promote coaches, create leverage for people, and heck, get people to where they're happy with their 8-3, as well as that cherry on top of the football job as well. You know, I'm excited for this, and I believe it's going to grow into something a lot bigger. And might have to rent out damn Six Flags at this rate.
Coach, I appreciate it, as always, joining me today, and hope y'all get thawed out eventually this week. I know it's going to be cold all week. If there's any question at all in your mind that you can't make it where you need to go safely, don't do it. Mother Nature wins every time. Thursday, I'll be releasing the episode with Coach Clay Stevenson, the head football coach at Calhoun High School. And as always, we thanks for joining us on Sun Coaches Podcast, and remember, it's just satire.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Ever notice your dog acting totally out of character? It might be stress. My dog Max used to lose it every time I grabbed my keys. The second I'd reach for the door, he'd be pacing, whining, or tearing up the couch. His separation anxiety was stressing both of us out. So I tried Cradle. They make vet-formulated calming products with premium ingredients. Chews, bars, tinctures, whatever works for your dog. And here's the thing. They help dogs stay calm and relaxed without making them drowsy or zoned out. Whether it's separation anxiety, thunderstorms, car rides, or just the chaos of everyday life, Cradle helps support balanced behavior. And the best part? You can try Cradle risk-free. If it's not a good fit for your pup, you get your money back. No stress, no hassle, no hard feelings. So if you're ready to help your dog find their calm, head to CradleMyPet.com. That's KRADLE mypet.com. That's Cradle with a K. Try it risk-free today, because a calm pet is a happy pet.